Welcome back to Channel Your Light, Own Your Intuitive. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Erin Chandler. I am an intuitive guide and healer. I am also a psychic medium, and I'm also me. This is an important aspect to talk about. I am being told very, very clearly, because without me, there are no labels or context to direct that to. It is the same for you. If you do not own all of you, if you are not willing to be just you and all the idiosyncrasies and the light and the dark and the beauty, the labels become distorted as to what you are. And really the label is just a box or a context for others to understand or perceive the information that you share or give. This is an important part at the beginning of this teaching that I did not expect to share, but I trust that because that's what's coming through for Spirit. Sometimes Spirit messages will come through for me. They will also be for you. My intention is always that the messages of the most prevalent relevance and is geared towards those that view the channel is the information that comes through. So while a message may be for just one of you on here, it's actually planting seeds for the rest of you. Seeds of understanding, seeds of perspectives, different dimensions, multi-perspective, multi-dimensional. Those are important facets as we move through this next phase of the journey on the earth plan, on the macro stage, as well as on the micro stage of the self. Whether it's for light or dark, this is important. Whether it's for light or dark, both are equally powerful. When we understand our awareness of this, it allows us to protect ourselves. You will never protect yourself from something that you are not aware of because you're not aware of it, you don't know to protect yourself. In the spiritual communities, it becomes a flow through of misinformation, mistruths, misalignment of things, and it's not intentional. This is not a judgment. It has always been there. And I'm also being shown, Ashtar is telling me those are also steps. So as we've moved through the Great Awakening journey, that is a required step on Ascension. So it's kind of like stage 1 of the spiritual awakening, where you come into all this information and you're like, oh my gosh, I know so much and I'm so enlightened and all these beautiful things. We all go through that, but that's one of the steps and stages. So it's not to say that it's wrong, but rather we have come to a certain point. The Ashtar Command is very clearly saying we are now moving into that second stage for, I'm hearing many subsets of souls, soul tribes, and oversouls are nudging spiritual communities towards the truth and reality and understanding and discernment of spirituality. Now, I will say I also have been through this on my own journey, in my own experience as well. It's something we all go through. So Ashtar is very clear. We are at steps. So if you look at it as steps to Ascension, and the steps are going up, let's say, he says there is a step in there that's required where you come into and everything is all light. He says it's important that that step is there because most people who step onto that step have been in tremendous amounts of darkness. You require to be flooded and filled and believe and hope in light because has been so much lived collective conscious darkness. Okay, so this is not to say that that step is not important. There is no other stages without stage 1, and everybody comes to this and in their own timing. But as a general collective consciousness, we are now being pushed and nudged. It's time to move beyond that step. It's time to move far beyond that step. But that step is important because it serves a purpose. And once something has served its purpose, the purpose is not to stay there, it's to continue along the path of ascension, to move to the next step. So the spiritual ascension process is kind of like peeling back the onion layers, much like it is with the healing journey, right? When we've been traumatized and victimized, we go on a healing journey where it's like we peel off the outer layer and oh my gosh, there's 5,000 layers underneath it. Who knew, right? So there's 5,000 layers underneath it. Now, it's the same with a spiritual ascension or a spiritual journey. Now, here's the kicker, my friends. All of these things about the stages are actually all taught, and it is hidden knowledge, right? It's part of the occult, which is hidden knowledge. I remember distinctly, why can I not find a teacher who can explain to me what I'm actually intuiting and experiencing? So this is important because this is what we're finally moving into, because there's enough percentage of the collective, 20%, that is ready for the next stage of the evolution. And it must be so because it's also preparing for the changes on the earth plane, which will happen simultaneously. So there's going to be a balancing of the energetic and spiritual planes as well, because there has been a significant amount of imbalance, withheld information, both on the main stage, but both through the occult teachings. So withholding information also has a karmic law attached to it. Withholding information, you do receive karma. If you know that somebody is being hurt and you refuse that or withhold that information or knowledge, there is a karmic law for that, my friends. So just to be very clear, I want to share that because many people think of withholding or omissions as I'm washing my hands clean as a loophole in that aspect. But when it comes to universal laws and the law of vibration and all those other things, I'm being told very clearly, the universal law is what will stand. So that's a very specific message for someone. I'm not sure who that is. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Do not make something fit. Do not say, oh, that's a message that came through. How can I make that fit into my life and try and find a way? That's not how we intuitively gauge or have discernment. That's you trying to make meaning out of everything in your life rather than your life or your experiences showing you what is meaningful to you specifically for your journey to guide you and illuminate your path. So the spiritual ascension process, the Ashtar Command, that is why they're here. That's why the Planetary Commission is here. That's why the Legions of Light are here, is because we are moving through this next part of the evolution. So this is the truth part where our foundations as spiritual communities predominantly is based on everything is all light and love. And well, that is true. Okay, that is a perspective of the I Am Presence that is absolute truth. Here is another perspective of the I Am Presence, and this too, says Ram Dass. That's so funny and interesting and powerful. Thank you, Ram Dass. He says Baba Ram Dass. Okay, he's saying that's like a Miss or a Mrs., but a spiritual context level, a label, divinely guided. I'm hearing. I accept that. Thank you. So when we move through this level, so yes, that perspective is an absolute truth. Everything is all predominantly light. He says what is also an absolute perspective of truth and the divine and the spiritual journey is, yes, dark exists. Yes, there are components. There are beings of light who are not for your highest good, and there are beings of dark who are not for your highest good. There are beings of dark who you can pull information from that will help you in certain ways when you're trying to master your masculine or your yang energy. That dark energy is the materialistic aspect of it, right? You may need to pull that in on your spiritual journey. Now let's look at the light side, right? If we look over here, we need that hope and we need that light in order to ignite that creation, inspire that, to bring peace, to bring joy. But without the yang, the masculine that is balanced, so I'm not talking about the unbalanced where it's not for your highest good and it's gone over the balance of materialism. I'm talking about the masculine that is connected to the light, connected to the heart center, but is balanced in the recognition we are spiritual beings having a human experience. The human experience includes a monetary system, which is an energy, side note, but you have to be able to move within a material world. That's what some of you are mastering, I'm being told. Some of you who are highly spiritually involved but have struggled in the material world, this is actually part of your mastery. It's mastering the material world. Material is not bad. It's required for the human body to exist, right? You require to have a roof over your head. You require to have food to eat. You require to have money coming in and out because money makes your life easier because it fulfills that aspect of that piece. So the masculine, distorted, balanced energy, which could be tied into that dark or the materialistic aspect of it. Because there's been such a drawdown, the imbalance has been so significant. Right now in the collective consciousness, we have a balance. The balance is kind of like this. It's not balanced at all. There's all these light communities and pumping out light and love and all those things, which is wonderful, and we need that. But there's also, it's because we have such a distinct drop of polar opposites of this greed, materialism, manipulation, disconnection, all of those things. What we're doing right now in the Great Awakening is we're going like this. We're balancing it out, bringing the balance, the middle path, says Tick. We're bringing it back to the middle path. In order to do this, this means that spiritual communities are going to move up the next step of ascension, which means becoming highly aware that there is both light and dark, and not all light is good for you and not all dark is good for you. So it's, even though I'm bringing it down like this, so it's like the light is so high and the dark is so low, we're going like this. This means stuff, I wanted to say the SHIT word. Thank you. So I'm being told all of us are being upgraded, not only in consciousness, but in awareness of what's happening. So as a guide, when I'm looking at the great macro, the galaxy macro, the universal macro with the ascended masters in spirit, they're showing me that we have this light spiritual community, we have this dark one. The middle path is the way. Look at the Christ ascension. I'm being shown a Rosicrucian teaching where Christ is in the middle, and you have the light beings over here, and you have the dark beings over here, and the dark being is turning his face away. If you have not read this, I'm being told that's a very clear indicator. I'm being referenced right now, the Scrolls of Light channel that is posted on my website. If you've not been over there, there is actually a section of divine channels that I post. You can read them for free. They come out all the time. Subscribe to our mailing list. You will be notified as soon as they're posted, as well as be entered for free intuitive guidance and mediumship readings that I give away every couple of months to subscribers. So the website is erinchandler.com. Please feel free to go over there. I will put a link to the Divine Channel in the video description box below. The Divine Channel, it's part 3 of the Trinity, and it is called the Scrolls of Light. In that channel, one person's face was turned away from me, a total denial of that, despite the fact that they are a piece of creation and creator and God. So I'm being, Aramonic is the word coming in. So I'm being shown, if the middle path is the Christ consciousness of balance, the balance requires an acknowledgement of the light and the dark. So if we go back to Jesus on the cross, this is a Rosicrucian teaching. If we go back to Jesus on the cross, I am the truth, the way, and the light. And we have the being over here who is dark, who is turning their face away. And then we have the being of light who says, oh yeah, I made mistakes and I did things wrong, but they're turning their face to the Christ consciousness. Both and are true. Both exist. The concept of Christ consciousness is neither all light or all dark. I'm being shown very, very clearly right now. It is the middle path. It's the middle path. It's the balance. So spiritual communities are going to come back into balance here through this next level of teaching. And I want to be super clear. This is not about judgment of anyone. That's because of the amount of imbalanced darkness in the collective conscious, the subconscious, and the manipulations. That amount of highlight was required in order for this to come back into balance, my friends. So right now we're here. And the Great Awakening is moving to here. So the Great Awakening is not just about waking people up to the truth, my friends. This is also about waking up spiritual communities. I too, 100% on that journey, thought, oh my gosh, like look at all this stuff and all these things that are wrong. And Ram Dass is saying, it's about the balance. Creator creates balance. And when things become imbalanced, there is chaos. And chaos is actually the divine reordering, bringing it back into balance. So this Great Awakening is not just for, the systems, the institutions, the truth about religions, all of those different threads and tapestries and the usage of trauma in order to continue the wheel of karma. We're going to also talk about the universal law of cause and effect because this is enormous in a multitude of different ways. So if we look at the collective consciousness that we're doing this means in spiritual communities, the ones that are just following all the light, it's important to know Those communities required all that light because they have traversed in tremendous darkness. So if I look back on Ava says, yes, Mom. If I look back on my experience when my daughter died and the events that took place after it, that were not just, were not appropriate, and actually continued the trauma and brought me further down. So it was not just the death of my child that was what crushed me. It then continued through the systems and institutions and medical and all those things that crushed me even more, to the point that I could not escape the darkness. Here's why believing that everything is light has its place on the spiritual journey and on this plane and on the experience of the human experience. Because when we are crushed in all that darkness and there's nothing else, the only thing that's going to bring us out of that is a tremendous amount of light, okay? I needed to be filled and fueled with hope, and to believe there is light, and to believe that people is good, and to believe that Spirit had my back, and to believe that my daughter was not gone. Because if I did not have that flooding of blinded by the light, if I didn't have that, I would never have made it out of this darkness. That's how dark it was. It permeated every fiber of my thoughts, my body, and my spirit. This piece of everything is all light, and I create my own consciousness. There is a purpose to that level. However, it's now served its purpose. We're now moving up to the next level of ascension, which is stage 2, and then there's stage 3. There's all these other different things. One stage is not better than another. I want to be really, really clear about that, because there is a lot of egos in spiritual communities. Sometimes I have to tamp down and say, Erin, I command the removal of all ego that is not for my highest good or does not serve the highest good. Because I don't want to be the person that the ego is the reason I do not expand. That my scared ego of me not being important or me not being worthy is the reason I feel unworthy, because that's all the ego is doing. That's it. We are a collective consciousness. We are creating collectively. Each individual in the collective, which is the individuated souls, they matter. Each individual ones matter because it makes up the collective consciousness. So this is kind of where we're at when it comes to the Great Awakening and spiritual ascension and truth and all those different things. And Ava says it's super important. This piece, the reason that they're talking about this is this piece right here is probably the most important understanding, so that people don't feel like they got it wrong, because they didn't get it wrong. That was the correct stage, step, thing that you needed. And I have 1000% been at that stage and that step as well. It is not a bad thing. It's just time to release the leaves and the things that no longer serve you and move into the next level or stage of ascension. The Planetary Commission is giving me a giant red light right now. He says some of you may not be ready for it, and some of you are. And that's an important note, because that's okay. Okay, no, they're saying we want to talk about ego some more. There is a spiritual teacher. I love her. For some of you will know her. Her name is Colette Baron Reed. So she teaches acronyms of ego is either edge God out, so it's moving to this way, or ease God's order, which is moving to this way. Ego is not a bad thing. It's not. It's not something to be removed entirely. It can serve your highest good. In fact, your ego is often what propels you to do more, to be more, to create, to ask for more, to expand into more. It's not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when the ego has been fragmented and is fragile and goes like this in order to protect itself because it didn't deal with the original healing. So sometimes when I see, if I'm given a visual, I'm being given it right now, the ego is actually a very scared, someone feeling in lack and unworthiness and unimportant and unsignificant and is in total fear and is down here. But the outward projection is this giant circle of, I am this because I am self-preserving myself because I have wounds that if somebody ever touched the outside of my ego and it cracked, all of my wounds would come pouring out and I would be hurt. That is, I'm hearing the generic terms of ego, I guess you could say. That's the imagery that I intuit when I see ego, or when I'm being explained ego. Now there's the ego where it's the holy trinity of the self, recognizing I am worthy, and guess what? So are you. I am significant, and guess what? So are you. I am insignificant on the grand scale, and guess what? So are you. And guess what else? I have a piece of puzzle that helps your piece of the puzzle, and you have a piece of the puzzle that helps his piece of the puzzle, and you, and you, and you. And the entire collective consciousness, if we're all in our I am presence, each of us have a piece of the puzzle. You are a piece of the puzzle. This is important. We're all pieces of the puzzle. So as we move Ashtar Command and the Planetary Commission is giving me a giant green light right now that this needs to be understood in this context, because I'm seeing again, Ram Dass is saying both hands. Release all judgment. There is no place for that on the spiritual ascension path. Release all judgment of self. Release the judgment of others. That is how you unfurl and unfold into a deeper truth. That's how you become more whole within the Holy Trinity. You must release judgment, for it is always a judgment of yourself, of whether I'm doing it right or I'm wrong, or I'm important or I'm not important. As Colette always says, we want to ease God's order rather than edge God out. And God, in the terms and aspects of the one infinite creator, the one infinite creator. This is not man's religions or stories of who God is and isn't, or what Jesus's role was and wasn't. We want to ease God's order rather than edge God out. Every person is worthy. You would not be embodied here if you were not worthy. End of story. Period. Thank you so much for joining me today and co-creating in this beautiful space as we move along our journey and we receive the guidance from Spirit and Ascended Masters and Legions of Light and clearly multiple other dimensional beings that are here to help us on the journey of, I'm being told very clearly, the middle path. Please pop in the comments. Did this resonate with you? Like, are these concepts and terms that make sense to you? Let me know if you had an aha moment. Let me know if you have even further information that would help all of us here watching these videos. Because remember, we're all in this together. We are. And that separateness is coming into one, which means the acknowledgement of both sides of the equilibrium. Please like, share, and subscribe. I will catch you next time on the next video of Channel Your Light, Own Your Intuitive.